you can't shoot them down, and I guess that also goes for law enforcement. They can't shoot them down either. So like
Apparently not.
they have some really like super special status that people don't even have, and pets in your own yard
Right.
wouldn't even have. Like the police can shoot your dog and nobody cares. But if you
Well, a
fly a
dog is considered
drone,
property, right? And
yeah,
a
you fly
drone
a
is
drone,
considered property.
nobody can shoot the drone though. That's weird.
Yeah,
I don't get
I
it.
agree. It's a little strange. My big thing is that I I have a real problem with them with government saying we don't know what they are, but it's okay. To me, that
Yeah, no,
says,
no,
oh yeah, we
yeah.
know exactly what they are, and
Of
they're
course they know what they are.
ours, and we're not going
Probably.
to hurt you with them, but we're doing
Okay.
something. So, welcome back to a supplementary episode of the Bloomburg Democrat. We had
Hey,
one other,
same shirt.
yes, same clothes, right? We had another topic that we wanted to try to catch just because it's timely.
Yep.
And that is the topic of the drones that are being seen all over the mostly east coast of the US, New Jersey, New York. And there are several states now where they're
Mm,
being seen.
yeah.
And the fishy thing about this whole thing is that the government is essentially saying, we don't know what they are, but it's fine, it's safe, they're not a threat.
Uh,
That doesn't make sense, does it? What do
no.
you what
It's
have you
weird.
seen or read about the drones, John?
Well, it's well, so not much. Like I don't even know if it's connected, but like China had apparently flown a bus-sized balloon over the United
Balloon.
States at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
basically a drone. I mean it's a wind-blown, maybe
Right.
not so very navigated type of a drone, but they were probably full of instruments, taking all kinds of
Right.
measurements and whatnot. And then recently, I've only heard just a little bit. Like, it's not popping up in my newsfeed so much, but I did see something that there were drones flying over military bases, and like I thought it was the military who was complaining about it. That's the impression that I got from the articles that I had read, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's not the case. I don't really know. I do know that back when drones kind of were first starting up and they were just like quadcopters and stuff that people were 3D
Mm-hmm.
printing and building out of, aluminum framing and stuff. Back before the FAA had gotten involved and decided, okay, we're going to have some rules about this. Like
Right.
people were just kind of, building them on their own and flying them around, and it was fun, and they weren't very sophisticated. And then since then, the FAA got involved, and they're like, okay, well, you're going to have to register your drones. And they have to be below a certain weight, and you don't have to pay a fee. And maybe since then, I think there might be a fee or something. But like, so the regulations have kind of been increasing, and I was quite surprised to see that even nowadays, like it's considered to be illegal, like if you wanted to shoot one down, right? If somebody's flying
Right.
a drone over your property, you can't just shoot it
Right.
down. And I must admit that I don't quite understand the reasoning behind that, because it seems to me
Yeah.
like that would be trespassing. But I know that there is like
Well,
airspace
do
is
you
not
own the
necessarily
airspace?
right.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think that's bullshit myself. I think you do own the airspace if you're going to own the land, as well as the mineral rights. I think dividing all this up is really stupid.
Mhm.
And I also don't really agree with property taxes, because I think that kind of nullifies the whole concept of ownership of land. But anyways, that's a different story, I guess. So you can't shoot them down, and I guess that also goes for law enforcement. They can't shoot them down either. So like
Apparently not.
they have some really like super special status that people don't even have, and pets in your own yard
Right.
wouldn't even have. Like the police can shoot your dog and nobody cares. But if you
Well, a
fly a
dog is considered
drone,
property, right? And
yeah,
a
you fly
drone
a
is
drone,
considered property.
nobody can shoot the drone though. That's weird.
Yeah,
I don't get
I
it.
agree. It's a little strange. My big thing is that I I have a real problem with them with government saying we don't know what they are, but it's okay. To me, that
Yeah, no,
says,
no,
oh yeah, we
yeah.
know exactly what they are, and
Of
they're
course they know what they are,
ours, and we're not going
probably.
to hurt you with them, but we're doing
Okay.
something, right? But we're not
So,
going to admit that we're doing it.
but if they're over military bases, then that's where the government should be flying military drones, right? And of course, the
Yeah,
government at this point, like I've been reading up on Ukraine and their use of drones, and like this is the first drone war, right?
yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
they are really using drones a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and they're figuring out the tactics of how to use drones well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite impressive what they're doing. And the United States, I think at this point, we're kind of on the sidelines, a little bit playing catch up and kind of just trying to learn by observing, right? And so how are we going to learn if we don't actually practice, though? We got to practice. And so they must be practicing somewhere, and they must be practicing over military bases, and that's fine.
Well,
That's
but
where
they're
they should
also
be practicing.
practicing over cities and people's private
Okay, well, see,
homes and things.
this is what I
So
don't
these,
know.
yeah, so these drones, in fact, here, let me tell you an interesting piece of information, a firsthand account that I saw on the news yesterday.
Hmm.
There was a newscaster who he heard a report that there was a bunch out over the Atlantic coming in.
Hmm.
And so he went to that location to see. And there's surely enough, there was like 50 of these car-sized drones. I mean, they're big.
Uh-huh.
They're
Yeah.
not just small
Like fixed
drones.
wing?
They're
Are they
big.
fixed
Yeah,
wing? Are
fixed.
they
They are
multi-rotors?
fixed wing. They
Uh-huh.
apparently are fixed wing, and
Yeah.
50 of
That
them
sounds
coming in
military.
off the ocean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that the Coast Guard also went out to where these were being reported, and at least 13 of them followed the Coast Guard boat back in
Hmm.
towards
Hmm.
land. So this is not just some hobbyist out
No, no, no,
putting
no, no,
drones
no,
in
no,
the
no.
air.
No, of course not.
These
This
are
is
big.
military
They're
practicing.
big investment. Yeah, there's something. Or they're either
Yeah.
practicing, or this is where I'm going to get a little conspiratorial, John.
Okay. At
um,
this point, I feel like they're probably just practicing. They're trying to not fall behind. And Russia is getting a lot of practice right
potentially,
now. And Ukraine
potentially.
is getting a lot of practice. And we're not getting any practice. So to me, it seems like it's probably practice.
But
Uh,
why are they not telling the public who they're obviously
because they're stupid.
psychologically impacting? Well, so see,
Yes.
here's where I say there's intention to the psychology of this. I
Yeah.
really do wonder if this is an attempt to see how does the public respond
Hmm.
when they are somewhat invaded by this unknown thing they're seeing in the sky, right?
Oh, so maybe they're
So
going to start talking about UFOs.
that may well be, if it's a
That would
false
be
flag
interesting.
type event, right?
Mm. Mm.
So that's where I'm going to be a little conspiratorial. I don't know for sure.
Mhm.
This is just speculation on my point. But the fact
Yeah.
that they're saying it's okay, but we don't know what they are, that's too fishy. That's gaslighting. And I'm
Yes, of
so
course.
tired of being gaslit by the government, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. If anybody's gaslighting, it's the government, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Don't
yeah,
believe what you see. Don't worry about what you see. You're fine. There's no threat.
yeah,
Even though we will say we have no idea what they are. They could be from us. They could be from, another country. They could be from who knows where. They're not
yeah,
fessing up,
yeah,
right? But is
yeah,
that lack of information that tells me they absolutely know what they are and where they're from, and that means they're probably ours, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
Well, I would like to
so
see somebody go out there with like, there's a bunch of like Hacker RF is a particular type of little radio receiver transmitter thing that can just like scan all the bands at once and then just record everything and just see what kind of messaging is being sent to these drones because they must have a constant connection if they're
yeah,
being controlled like
unmanned,
yeah,
right?
if they're unmanned but they're still human controlled. They could be AI controlled. That's something that they're definitely working on right now, even in Ukraine. Russia's been jamming their drones, so they have to use AI and other types of machine learning in order for the drones to be able to identify their own location based on like landscape and stuff, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so there could be something like that where it's not being controlled by a human at all. which also kind of brings to mind, like I remember in the past there was some talk about how AI would not be used on the battlefield. Like computers would not be choosing who to shoot. It would always have to be a
Hmm.
person. And I feel
Hmm.
like these days we're kind of very conveniently quickly forgetting that. I wonder what the current stance is on that, right? Like AI destroying human life. Like how far are we willing to go with that now? I wonder. That's something I would like to hear about. So yes, there's a lot of possibilities. Maybe there's satellite control, maybe it's laser control. Laser control you wouldn't be able to pick up on the radio bands, but if it's radio control, even with the satellite, which might be more directed, I feel like there might be a bit more chance to pick up some radio communication there. I would like to kind of see
Yeah.
what's going on. Of course, it's going to be encrypted. You could see some communication going back and forth. That would be interesting.
So I have another reason why I suspect that this is a psychology test of a sort, and
Hmm.
that is that these things do have lights, and
Hmm.
we know that they don't have to use their lights. There have been
Right.
reports that they are silent, like they don't make any sound. Although just this morning I did hear a report where somebody said it had a really strange, unusual kind of a roar to it. So apparently some of them might make sounds, but or
Mm.
can make sounds, but the vast majority of people who've reported on them have said they're silent.
Hmm.
And they've been coming out at night. So if they were traveling silently at night with lights off, people would not be that aware of them, right?
Right.
With the
Right.
lights on, people see them, they record them, they take video of them, photographs, whatever. So
Well,
that seems intentional to me.
okay, so lights could also be simply so that the drones can identify each other, right? So if
But if they're
they're a
connected by radio,
yeah,
it
so
seems to be somebody's doing this in,
well,
as
that's
a
true, but how well can you triangulate in an exact position? Like an optical fix, by having a little point of light in the sky that a camera can look at and say, okay, well, there's the other drone. That would be a much easier thing to do than trying to triangulate a radio source. Like it could tell, it could probably like send its GPS signals. But this is the thing, right? Like in Russia, they're jamming radio signals for the drones so that they just kind of fall out of the sky, right? So they don't get GPS, they don't get the communication with the base station, right? And so that's why they're using the machine learning so that these things can kind of navigate on their own, so they don't just fall out of the sky, right? And so if this is what they're testing, then if they're trying to get drones to work in concert with one another, they're going to need some sort of way of knowing where the other drones are that's not going to be GPS based, or like it would have to be at least laser or LiDAR or radar even. But then these things
right.
can also be picked up by others. So maybe those lights could, I think, possibly be a way of that these drones can just like identify each other, right? Knowing where they are.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the technology, John, to really have an opinion on that. I
Mhm.
I I kind of wonder if the technology's maybe not already past what we might be fully aware of. And I
I
have
don't think there's much
no,
possibility that there's technology out there that I'm unaware of. Like
I don't know, John. I
I
mean,
really read up a lot on
secret military,
technology.
operation. You don't know everything that's going on in the
No,
military, right? I mean, as
that's
far
true.
as
That's
what
true.
they've
Like
developed.
I'm sure they have
Um,
bombs that I don't know about, but like, are they using technology that scientists aren't making research papers on? Maybe not.
I don't know. I don't know. So I'm not looking at so much the technology, which I appreciate that you are thinking about because that
Yeah,
needs to be thought about. That's not my strong point. I'm
yeah,
thinking about motivations, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
who might be behind it and what motivates them to have it be occurring the way that it is.
yeah.
And so those are the things that I think about, if they can move through the night sky without being noticed, why are they actively working to be noticed?
Well, so okay, so here's definitely something that, like, if it is a technological limitation where they're using these lights as a form of like just tracking or something, stop doing that because clearly people can see them, right? And if you can
Right.
see them, you can shoot them down. you're telling people not to shoot them down, and you're going to get fined and maybe sent to jail or whatever. You shoot them
Well,
down,
if they're also in
but
heavily populated areas, John, if they're the size of a
yes.
car, you shoot it down, you could kill somebody,
Well, yes,
right?
of course, right? That's why you're not supposed to do it.
Right.
But in the case of a war, for example, if you're relying on lights that people can see from the ground, that's not going to work out, right?
Right.
So if it is a technological limitation, then that's something they really need to work on. And if it's a psychological warfare type of thing on their own citizens, that's a really stupid thing to be doing because like what's there to be gained?
Well,
Like
that is the question.
yes. So if it's as you say, we're trying to desensitize people, and like that's a very like thing that happens all the time. Like we're just trying to desensitize people to stuff left and right, and then the price increases don't hurt as much because people just get used to them, and then the inflation is like this thing that just keeps going on. Like that happens, right? No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if like desensitizing people to this would be good for anything other than maybe like having some type of a really shocker moment that they want to reveal, right?
Mhm.
Like there's this big thing that we haven't been telling you, and maybe now you're not so scared anymore.
Disclosure.
Maybe
Right.
we'll tell you now.
Right.
That's possible.
Yeah.
That would be nice because then maybe it might be aliens, and I would love to like talk to some aliens.
Well, I would too. But then the question is which direction are they going to try to get the public to respond? So do they
Yeah, yeah.
want the public to see it as a threat, or do they want the public to see it as an opportunity to interact with people who are
Well,
perhaps
almost
more
definitely a
advanced?
threat
Right.
because they want to maintain power, and anything
Right.
that might be better than them would be a detriment to their power. So,
Right.
yeah, don't trust people.
So there's our conspiracy theories for the day. I try not to be too too open with the ones that I pay attention to and the ones that I think are
Yeah.
bunk. But
I will happily talk about the ones that I like. I feel like probably there are aliens. Like I do admit that, like scientifically speaking, like things are really far away, and it's very unlikely that aliens are visiting us using the technology that we understand.
I
But
agree.
using technology that we don't understand, that's very possible, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
I can't say there's no aliens around. There
So
might be.
let me have you ever heard of the Nazca mummies?
Oh, I've heard of all kinds of Nazca stuff. It's very interesting.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they have like the
So
big brain, the big heads and stuff, right?
yeah, three
Yeah,
fingers, three
yeah,
toes,
yeah,
elongated bones, and they're physical being. I mean, like their bodies that have all of the organs and connected ligaments, and
yeah,
they're not something that's been thrown together. I
yeah.
think that's very interesting. Most people
It
don't know
is.
about it, and it's amazing
And
to
the
me
Nazca
since it's very
lines.
public. Oh yeah,
Yep,
the
and the
Nazca
Nazca
lines are,
lines, they're
yeah,
only seen
suggest
from above.
right.
Yep,
Exactly.
it's very
Somebody
interesting.
had to have been above to see them, right?
Yep, yep. Now there's something that okay, this is maybe going to throw a lot of people off, but there's a Netflix show called Ancient Apocalypse, and it's
Mhm.
this British guy, and like he's
Yeah.
a lot of people call him a quack, and he's not like a trained archaeologist, it's true, but I think he has some valid points in that
Yeah.
we have these stories that keep popping up around the world, and they're almost all the same, like they have
Mhm.
very, very similar premises to them. Like these aren't just a bunch of coincidences. Like something
Right.
happened. We seem to think that human civilization has only gone back like until the Ice Age, but it
Right.
goes way back further than that. Like
Yeah.
we've been living
Well,
and thinking for much longer than this, and
yes.
so something has happened, and people shared these stories, and I don't understand why archaeologists just completely ignore it and don't try to study it a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
power could be
yes,
one of those
yes.
things. dogma.
And yes, dogma,
You know,
I think, is primarily the issue. I think it is dogma. Like we have this understanding, and I think like the realm of physics has a lot less dogma. Like they seem to be much more open to completely changing their entire universal view of the cosmos. And I really
with
like
new
that about
evidence.
physics. Yes, I
Yeah,
like that about physics.
me too.
But like archaeology and anthropology, boy, they are really just they're not into any kind of like don't challenge my beliefs. And I
Right.
think they need to be challenged.
Well, we have things that are called misplaced artifacts all the time, where things are
Yeah.
found at much, more ancient levels or much deeper layers of,
Yeah.
geology than they're supposed to be.
Right.
And there's things like the Sphinx that geologists are saying, oh no, if you look at the water weathering here,
Yeah.
this is much older than the 6,000 years that Egyptologists claim.
Exactly. Exactly.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of that, and I really enjoy listening
Yeah.
to those things as well.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
It's interesting.
but yeah, with where we're at, I have a bit of a conspiratorial feeling about these drones and what the
Yeah.
purpose of them being seen, because they're large,
Yeah.
which means a large investment on
Yeah.
somebody's part to
Yeah.
actually have them all and to be, having them out into this place in the United States on such a large scale.
Yeah.
It's got to be
I'm
government.
skeptical. I'm skeptical as to the nefarious nature. I think it's probably just training. Like they need somewhere to fly them, and they would probably want to do in like in real world situations, right? Which would be over cities. Because in Ukraine, it's they're flying over cities, right?
Yeah.
They're not just flying over empty government fields. They're flying over cities and things. And so I think they're probably just trying to mimic and prepare for a war that they think is coming. That's what I think.
So are they above the law? Because these things are flying outside of
Yeah,
FAA rules
yeah,
with regard to, where they are, how high they are, those
yeah.
kinds of things.
Well, I don't think they're
So,
probably above the rules, and they certainly shouldn't. They shouldn't be. Like the government, of course, should not be above its own rules, right? You should follow
right.
your own rules before you follow anyone else's rules. But I'm sure they also have some sort of like some rules that say that the military can do what they want to do under these certain circumstances. And so these circumstances are probably falling within those rules, and they're just not telling us about it. I'm sure they're just saying, like need to know basis, and you don't need to know, and
Yeah. Well, like I said, to
they're
me,
trying to
it
get ready
just
for
feels like
war.
gaslighting.
I think they're trying to get ready for war. They feel war is coming, and I feel like war is coming. And so I think they're kind of secretly getting ready, and they're trying to make sure that we have the drones that we need because the first drone war is here. I read that recently in the news, and I agree with it. It's here. And the next drone war is going to be very interesting. Maybe it'll just be a continuation of this one, and maybe there'll be a pause, but I think it's coming, and I think they're trying to get ready for it.
It'll be interesting to see. We'll have to wait this one
Yeah,
out and see what the end result of all of this
yeah,
turns out to be.
yeah.
So, all right. Thank you, John, for
You're very
another
welcome.
really interesting discussion.
Thank you. I
Bye
learned a
bye.
lot.
Great. Me
Bye
too.
bye.
If you enjoyed this content, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.